the MNOs are keeping an updated record of all registered subscribers. And if there are any SIM cards there that are not registered, the responsibility that is on MNOs, if they cannot be able to get documentation or records for that SIM card, then they have to deactivate such SIM cards. It should not be in use. That's the law. So for us, when we talk about compliance, there's a criteria which we are using. One is a person fully registered by demonstrating the name of the person, their addresses, and having a copy of the identification documents used during registration. Those are key requirements. And if I get a SIM card today and I walk to Safaricom or Telecom Kenya, I want to see the details of the information I've just shared being available to us. But where we have the information missing, it means we have to take action. And this was the situation then. So this is a corrective measure that we have to do for compliance purposes. According to most MNOs, all of them, in fact, as we discussed, the history of record keeping is kind of checkered in terms of it's not been consistent. And at some point, we were using the IPRS to verify the authenticity of subscribers. The IPRS is basically the Integrated Population Registration System, which is kept by the government. So that is the module that was being utilized for purposes of verifying registrants. And that's why they're saying they have 100% compliance. Just to correct, that's not 100% compliance according to us. We need to come to your place and establish that actually you have the actual record, at least a copy of the ID. That is how the regulations are. Maybe in future, that might change through the new regulations. But as it is now, we need to have that. And that's the reason why this verification exercise entails provision of that particular information. And when PD talks about photos, is actually the copy of the ID which you upload. Okay? Not the photo, the image. But now that takes me to the second question. Why is Safaricom taking photographs? They justified that why they were doing that. But in as far as CA is concerned, we are only focused on one. We are not requiring subscribers to provide their photographs. That's not our requirement. So now that's the relationship between yourselves and Safaricom. And in our engagements, we've agreed that we should not request this information or photographs from subscribers when they're verifying their data. But I know that in future, this might become necessary. And I don't think they're doing that in bad faith. They're doing that in good faith. Other countries actually get this information from subscribers. And in their own way of being diligent, perhaps, that's why they're requesting. But that ends up being a relationship between yourselves as citizens and Safaricom as service providers. But the standard requirement now is your ID, your name, your address, and your location, perhaps. So that must be clear. Why has it taken 7 years? We do this enforcement over and over. When the regulations were passed in 2015, there was a similar campaign taking place, and largely targeting the people you refer to as those who had registered prior to 2015, who had to appear physically to be able to present the documentation. Of course, 7 years later, a lot of things have happened in between, and verification becomes a continuous exercise on our part from a compliance perspective. And if you don't carry out an exercise like this, a lot of things can actually fall out of place. And that is what we need to rectify. So we've been doing this over and over, only that the approach has been different. We've exchanged letters, I don't know how many times, with the operators. They've taken initiatives to correct a few things, but we still have a problem. And this problem demands that a national level campaign is undertaken. Hence, seeing what you're seeing today. that answered that 2016. Maybe I'll wish to. Okay, non-Kenyans, I think they're going to respond to that. Financial aspects, are there potential losses in this? You're going to respond to that. And we'll respond to the issue of what happens to SIM cards that have been locked. What will happen if we have to reactivate them? I think there's a process that requires fresh registration. That's what it means. People who die, I think is a very important question. What happens to their records? I think you'll help us there. I also have to figure it out. You help us there. So maybe you start from there. Thanks.
Thank you, DG. I think I want to go back to the earlier questions. I wanted just to clarify two things. There was a question about Fuliza, when customers will be deregistered and what happens to